Breaking news we're getting from the PA Newswire that there's been reports of an explosion outside Liverpool Street Station. That, of course, in the East End of London. It's the
eyewitnesses say there was a bang heard during rush hour. Of course, now it's slightly after rush hour. That's according to British Transport. Well, let's just update you. We're now hearing that King's Cross train station, King Cross, St Pancras, has been evacuated, has been closed. That a major...
Bradley, just to interrupt you, we're getting reports there's been another incident, London Underground are telling us, at Edgware Road, and that, of course, is in northwest London.
There have been reports, one confirmed, of an explosion on a bus near Russell Square, Tavistock Square.
Panicking, breaking the carriage windows with bare hands, anything to get oxygen into the carriage.
It's important, so I need to remember it, yeah. So, my name is Belen Wilson, everybody calls me Belle, and I'm here to talk about the 7/7 bombing attacks in 2005, which I was a victim of.
Can you take me back to the morning of July 7th, 2005? What was your day supposed to look like?
So, it was I think it was a Wednesday, and I was going to work basically, so it was a normal day, and I was going to go on holiday the week after, so I was really looking forward to all that. Yeah, I was wearing a new cardigan. It was a yellow cardigan that I bought. It was really lovely as well. It was a really nice weather in July, and so I was really looking forward to the sun. So I used to live in an area of London which is called Stoke Newington. In Stoke Newington, you don't have it's an area that doesn't have a tube station, so I had to walk like almost 20 minutes to a station called Arsenal, which is in the Piccadilly line. So my walk was really nice, to be honest, because I would go through Clissold Park, which is a massive park in Stoke Newington. So I will cut across Clissold Park and then walk all the way to Arsenal, which was around 20 minutes. Yeah, I was slightly late. I think that's for sure. But it wasn't like something I was worried about, because I knew I was going to get there more or less on time. Not terribly late. The one thing that changed that day is that I bought, because I knew it was going to be hot, I bought a bottle of water to take with me on the train, because I was starting to feel like it gets really hot in the train, and I was already a bit claustrophobic, so being in the train with the heat, so I just thought I'll take a bottle of water with me. So that was the only thing new that I did.
When you got to Arsenal Station, did you choose, when you were on that station, did you choose a different carriage, or?
Yes, actually that's a really good point. I walk all the way down the corridor, and that day, instead of turning right, which was my usual sort of spot in the platform to wait for the train, I turned left that day. I just don't know why, but I just kind of thought, oh, I'll do left. And I went left, and I stopped right under the sort of a screen that announces how long it's going to take to arrive the trains. Yeah, and I always think about it, like, I don't know why I did this, but that day, that's what I did. I ended up at the back of the second carriage, and that's crucial because the bomb was in the first carriage. It was crowded, as I said. There was quite a lot of people that day, so there was quite a few people in the platform waiting for the train. So when we came in the train, as I said, I was standing. It wasn't packed. There was room between us in Arsenal, but it wasn't like empty, the carriage. A lot more people came in King's Cross when we got to King's Cross, but it was standing in the corridor between the seats. So that's the only thing. It was really crowded, and I remember people were just like pushing to get in, because everybody wanted to get to work on time. Yeah, the doors closed, and we were like just not even like 2 minutes down the tunnel, and we heard a massive bang, like bang, like a really massive bang, and the whole carriage stopped like at once, and we all went like forward, like the ones that we were standing, we went completely forward, and obviously everybody went like whoa, you know, or screaming. This massive cloud of something, you could see it coming, so it was shoot from inside the tunnels, but at that moment I didn't know what it was, but there was this like black cloud coming towards us, because at that point we had the emergency lights of the carriage on, so you could slightly see a little bit. So I remember vividly like a black cloud hitting us, and it was just like this dust, and for me it was quite scary, because I just thought, oh, I can't breathe, and this is dust. And first thing I thought is the tunnel has collapsed in front of us. That's what I thought it was. It never occurred to me that it was a bomb, but it didn't sound like a bomb or explosion. It sounded like a collapsing, like rubble coming down or something like that. And at that point, I remember obviously being really scared, and people started to scream and cry and said what happened, and then we started hearing like really, really scary screams that I will not forget. And now looking back, I think that was the people that were really injured in the first carriage. And all those screams, the more time we spend under the tunnel, the less you will hear them. And I think a lot of people died after that, so their screams just kind of faded out. But what I'm going to say, because I'm Spanish, I know our culture is very sort of like emotional, so I was expecting people like panicking and shouting and trying to scramble to get out, but nothing of that happened. Like people just kind of really stood in the place they were, and we started kind of like hearing people saying, calm down, everybody is okay. Just people were trying to kind of reassure each other. People behave in a really sort of civilized way, in the sense of like that we stayed where we were. We didn't start to push or try to get out, because it could have been a stampede of people trying to get out and walk on top of each other, you know, but that never happened.
Well, how did you feel in that moment?
Terrified, because yes, it's my worst possible nightmare. I've always been a bit claustrophobic, so, and obviously my breathing started to get affected because I was kind of getting a bit panicky. So I tried to kind of convince myself that the best thing I could do is to breathe normal and calm down. And I remember very well, like I did kind of tell myself, well, you need to stop panicking, because the only way that you're going to leave this place is if you don't panic, right? What happened was, like, we were down there for almost a bit longer than an hour and a half. Basically, the people that were close to the windows, they were like passing messages to each other, and we got the message from right at the back of the train, because obviously I was in the second carriage, so I was right at the front of the train. So apparently right at the back of the train, someone said that the rescue was coming, right? So we knew that someone was coming at a certain point, around like an hour in. We knew that something was going to happen, so we stood there and waited quietly and patiently. And what happened is the tunnels in the King's Cross Piccadilly line, they're one of the deepest tunnels in the tube network, and the train had got stopped in between, like a crisscross of tunnels, but it was the sort of like the rear end that was at the crisscross, right? So what happened is, like, people from King's Cross came down from one of the tunnels that was empty with no train, walked all the way, got to the train, opened the doors, which was, I think, apparently was like the second to last carriage, opened the doors and evacuated they evacuated first the tail of the train, and then they started evacuating each carriage as he went up to when he came to ours, which was the last one. So basically what we did is like walk all the train towards where the door was open. So we all walk in a very civilized manner down to the tunnel, walk into the tracks and started to walk up the tunnel, which I believe was the Northern Line. So we walk in the tunnel for a while in the darkness the tunnels didn't have any light, it was just the emergency light now and then. So it was really dark. So we walked towards the light, which was like King's Cross. While we were walking, we were just chatting to each other, to strangers, and actually I have a photo of someone that I took a photo, and this person took a photo of me. I have this photo of someone that I don't know his name, and he has a photo of me, and it's really dark. It's like really can't really tell the face. So it's a really strange thing. I don't know why did we do it, but I think we were so happy to be out that we just thought it was a good idea. So we kept walking, and we ended up in the Northern Line platform. I don't know if it was south or going north, I don't know, but we were in the Northern Line platform of King's Cross, and there was a tube worker at the top of the platform helping us up, because it was quite a deep sort of platform, so you couldn't really like just jump and climb up. So he was helping us up, and in front of me there was this girl, and she got the guy gave her his hand and lifted her up, and when she lifted her up, I saw that in the back of her leg there was a massive gash bleeding from her jeans. It was the really dark jeans, so you couldn't really see, and then I looked around, and then I started looking at people, and some people were like completely, like bleeding from their heads, bleeding from arms. You started to see that, oh my God, there's people here that are really, really injured. And so that kind of like, that happiness that I felt, it's not that it crushed it, but you kind of realize, oh my God. After they lift her up, they helped me up, and I remember just coming to her and saying, please don't panic. But when they lift you up, I just saw that you have a cut, a quite deep cut in the back of your leg. And she said to me, oh yeah, I do feel like wet around there. And I was wondering what it was. And so her name was Jo. And we basically helped each other that day. So I just carried her bags. Basically, they led us towards the ticket hall of King's Cross. Now it's a new station, and it's massive and big and very, very beautiful. But at the time, it was just a really tiny station. So they put us in the ticket hall, all the sort of injured people that came out of the train, and told us to wait there. And it was at that point that when I saw everybody and I saw the context that I was in, which was like, this is major, there's a lot of people injured here. So I thought, I need to call my mom, tell her, because I'm pretty sure this is going to be in the news and I don't want her to worry. But I called my mom, and my mom picked up, and thank God she did pick up. And I said to her, Mom, whatever you see on the TV, don't worry, I'm fine. I was in the train, but I'm out. That's all I said to her. And it was no time, because I didn't want to talk for too long, and she just was so shocked that she didn't ask me anything else. And while we were there, we had like paramedics coming in saying, please stay here. So we stayed in the lobby and the ticket hall for quite a while, until someone, again, a paramedic, came and said, there's some buses that we habilitated, some buses to take you to the nearest hospital. We were there for like at least another 40 minutes waiting. So, and I was okay. I did check myself. I was okay. I only had like ringing ears from the noise of the explosion, but I wasn't bleeding. So I just thought, I'll stay. Eventually someone said to us, can you please walk towards the buses? We went into the buses, we sat down. The buses were parked around next, and there were 3 buses, so there was quite a few of us. And while we were waiting to move, someone said, like out loud, a bus has exploded. We need to get out of these buses. I don't know how they got the news, but basically I remember a moment of panic where people actually got out of the bus. Their faces were like what, I'm not doing this again. And some of them came off the bus. I looked at Joe and we just both said, no, we'll go to the hospital. So when they took us there, we got out of the bus. I was with Joe all the time, carrying her back. And that's when they split us up, because they saw her and she needed more help than me. And the people that didn't have any injuries, they put us in a tent just to check that really our ears and check thoroughly that we didn't have any injuries, like visible injuries. But hers was really visible, so they took her to emergencies. And that's where we separated, and I kept her bag. She said, keep my bag, please, for me, because she was worried about losing her bag. And that's why I kept waiting for her to come back from A&E or to hear from her, because I needed to give her the bag back. So after they checked me, they said to me, if you want to go home, you can go home. And I said to them, well, I'm waiting for, at that time I knew her surname, Joe, and she said, well, then you can wait in the canteen of the hospital. So I went there, and in there there were a lot more injured from other trains. So I met people from the near Circle Line, Edgware Road. Shocking to know that there was other trains that had happened in other trains too. And I remember very well, we were in waiting, and because it was the canteen of the hospital, they had like the screens of the TV, and they had BBC News on all the time. So we couldn't hear the news, but you could read it on the tape at the bottom. And that's when I remember being really, really shocked. And that's when I knew for the first time that it was a bomb. So until that point, I really thought, even though people were saying there was rumors, we didn't exactly know that it was a bomb. So until that point, I didn't know. So yes, to meet people from other trains and see their injuries, and their injuries were slightly different to ours, because the people that were in Edgware Road, the tunnels are bigger. So they had like glass encrusted in their faces, because the explosion had expanded much more. So their injuries were like, and I never saw anyone from the first carriage, because the first carriage was mangled.
How did you feel in the days and weeks that followed?
It's a bit confusing. Like, I remember feeling happy to be alive. I remember just being glued to the news, trying to make sense of what has happened. And I remember like reading the papers a lot, and everything that came to me, I will read it. I did. Some people react in a different way. I wanted the information. I wanted to know what had happened, and I wanted to know where I was in relation with the bomb. So I did kind of like investigate it in my way. But I felt really sort of drained as well, like really. There's something called survivor's guilt, which is that you feel like you've survived, for a lot of people have died, and you feel a bit like bad that you are alive. And that is a very sad feeling, because I do feel a bit of a connection with the people that died that day, because we were in the same situation, but I took left, and I didn't end up in the carriage that could have like killed me. You think about that, like, why me and why this other person died, So it's just it's strange. It's a strange feeling, because you're glad to be alive, but at the same time you feel a bit guilty to be alive. But when I was waiting for Joe to come out, or to know any news of her and see if I could give her back the bag, a group of police came into the canteen of the hospital, and we're talking about like 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock that day. So I had been in that canteen for a long time. They came in and they said, anyone that was in the trains, please follow us. We're going to take you to take statements. We followed them. There wasn't. You have to remember, there wasn't any taxis. There wasn't any way of contacting someone to come and pick me up. So there was no buses, there was no transport, so there wasn't anything that we could do to go home. So we just thought, well, we'll go to the police and take the statement, and hopefully they'll take us home, right? So we went into these police vans, and they took us to a school that was habilitated, and obviously they had a plan for this sort of event, because the school was completely shut, and they had taken the sports hall, habilitated it, and they had like psychologists sit on tables around the area, and they told us, here's food if you're hungry, and they had like tables of sandwiches and drinks and whatever we wanted. And before we take your statement, if you want to talk to a psychologist, these people over here, and they were the people that were sitting on tables, you can go and talk to them. But by that time, we just wanted to go home, most of us. We just didn't want to hang around. And to be honest, to talk to a psychologist at that point, it's a bit too soon. So we all decided to eat something and go on and give our statement. So basically the police took our statement, and that was the only time that they were offering me some kind of help in terms of mental help to kind of cope with the whole situation and talk about what has happened. So I talked to the police. They took my clothes. They took my beautiful new cardigan. They gave me like basically sweatpants and a sweater, and they took all my clothes as evidence. So they were looking for anything that will give them clues of what had happened that day. And they said, "You're free to go." After the months passed, and I started having help. Psychological help, because I couldn't get into trains and I couldn't get into buses. I couldn't go to work basically, because it was that debilitating mentally for me to get into any public transport. So I started to see a psychologist privately, but until it passed like 6 months for the NHS to call me and said, "Do you need some help because of what happened to you on 7/7. So it was a bit like disjointed, the help that we got. I mean, there was obviously an intention to help at the beginning, but then they left us for 6 months. You know, I never heard of them again, you know. So I had to take I had to kind of pay for my own help. And it wasn't that point, it was talking to a psychologist, yeah. I kind of realized that life is really short and is very, very precious. It kind of makes you think about like your choices, and it kind of accelerated a lot of my decisions. Like I wanted to have children, I knew that before, but I was not really addressing it. And after what happened at the trains, I really thought I want to be a mom. I want to, have children. And there you go. So I had children 3 years later after 2005. So it kind of changed my life a lot better, just like I made the decisions I needed to make. And I just kind of focused more on what was going to make me happy. Appreciated life much, much more. There's a negative side of all this, this still affects me today, is that I'm really wary of like going into the tube, fully overcome it. It's always there. So I'm even more claustrophobic now. So if you put me in somewhere where there's no windows and I can't just feel a breeze in my face, I really get panicky. And that's always going to be, it's not going to go away. It hasn't gone away. And I've done as much as I could to kind of like contain it. When I felt ready, I went back, and I think it was like 2-3 days or so. No, actually, no, I went on holiday. I went on holiday to Mykonos because I had that holiday booked. So when I came back from Mykonos, I actually went back to the station, the Kids Cross station, and they had a book of condolences and that you can sign. And I felt really sort of compelled to say something, to all these people that didn't make it, because it's something that I think, as I said before, I feel like there's a link there that's going to be always be going to be linked to those people. So I left a message, and I try every year to go and pay respects in King's Cross. There's a plaque in the wall with all their names. So I try to go every year on the 7/7 to just pay my respects, and that's something that gives me comfort, and yeah, it's the least I can do for those people, to remember them. Yeah.